People, deluded Gooner, I'm back again. Now on Saturday, Arsenal versus Burnley. It's a game we need to win, get back to winning ways. Our form hasn't been terrible. I mean, we've just come off the back of winning 22 games in a row. Obviously, it now means nothing because Southampton beat us. Obviously, Spurs took us out of the League Cup. We need to get back on track. I'm not going to say our league form's been great. It hasn't been great, but it hasn't been terrible. The best way to describe it being indifferent. If results don't make it indifferent, we just need to look at the performances. Great win against Spurs in the league 4-2, but if we analyse that game, I'm sure you'd have something to say. The game against United, both sides probably feel they could have took 3 points. Draw's not the worst result. Obviously, Huddersfield is a 1-0, and we lost to Southampton, a game considering the form they're in. We shouldn't have lost, regardless of St Mary's being a scary place for us to go. Arsenal versus Burnley. Now they sit in 19th, and it looks like a good little race in regards to the relegation fight. You've got them. Part of me thinks Burnley. I look at the sides, and I think although Burnley are playing poorly, I think they're probably, in terms of playing for the manager and understanding the manager and pulling together, I think Burnley can sing from the same hymn sheet very quickly, to coin a phrase. But you got Burnley down there, you got Cardiff down there, you got Fulham, Southampton are still in that mix. Huddersfield, if I haven't said them, there's about 5 teams down there. I still maintain, I think Fulham and Cardiff are definitely gone, in my opinion. The third place, or let's call it 17th or whatever, probably still up for debate. So yeah, this is a game we should be winning. I'm wary of saying we should be winning because I expect to batter Burnley. Burnley have conceded 8 goals in the final 10 minutes. They haven't had a. There's been 3 games specifically this season. Spurs was one of them where they've never had a shot on. They never had a shot registered a shot on target. They sit 19th. So this is a side low in form, question marks over, and they've only scored a handful of goals, I believe 15. So there's question marks over their ability to keep a clean sheet and defend, something that was normalised with Burnley. You thought of how good they were defensively for the last couple of seasons. They can't defend, can't score goals, in different form. They're changing formations, trying to find a balance. They've been in a poor run of form. So we should be winning this. I mean, I'm gonna get through the stats, but all you gotta do is look in the last couple of games. We've scored 13 goals against them in all, and they've scored 2. We've won the last 7 against them. The last time they beat us was in 1974 at our place, I believe. Forgive me if I'm wrong. Um, yeah, man, this is a game we really should be winning. We run the risk of losing 2 games in a row, which hasn't happened this season, apart from obviously at the start of the year. We can't keep dropping points. At the end of the day, a point against Liverpool, United are good points, but if you look in both of them games, the other fans will say the same, but we could have walked away with these points. You look at the draws against Wolves, possibly against Palace as well, defeats against Southampton. I'm not criticising the team. You drop points, it's a fact of life. What I'm trying to say is, in the grand scheme of things, come May, if we don't get top 4, with the margins are ever closer between everyone, you're gonna look for individual reasons as to why we shortchanged ourselves in that department. So yeah, we know our home form is good. In 2018, in regards to the Premier League, um, we've done quite well. We've only lost twice to Manchester City, so we're doing all right. We know at Arsenal, I know with the form and all the things surrounding us, our home form's not really been spoken about generally. Um, so yeah, let me put a marker over that. We'll talk about Burnley's 3-4-3 or 3 at the back sort of formation. So yeah, man, we really need to win. Obviously, Southampton was our first Premier League defeat. Was our first defeat in 15 Premier League games, and was a kick in the teeth. But we know eventually, we know we wasn't gonna do an invincible thing and go undefeated the rest of the season. We knew that, so it's gonna happen. More bonus points or negative stuff if you're a Burnley fan. In the last 27 home games versus sides, well for us, we've won our last 27 home games against sides that have been in the relegation zone. The last time we dropped points, ironically, was Spurs in 2008 in that 4-4 draws, which I saw online. A concerning stat for us, obviously, is regardless of Burnley in their weird way, Una Emery's had to make around 15 half-time changes, and we haven't been leading at half-time in 17 games or something like that. So we know we need to be on point. I've already mentioned that they didn't register a shot on target against Spurs. Obviously, that's pretty poor. Against sides in the top 6, they basically lost a scoreline of conceding 23 goals and scoring 4 against sides in the top 8. Sorry, so they're not the best of when it comes to playing games like this. Again, these are plus points for us, but we know on a regular basis like you saw with Southampton's form, they didn't win in 14 games, or like you saw with Palace not being able to score at their place or be efficient. When you play Arsenal, these statistics go out of the window, and we need to stop allowing teams and players to kind of get going when they're having negative clouds around them in this department. They've only won one in the last 28 games against top six sides. They've only won once. That was against Chelsea at the beginning of last season. So again, these are games we really need to win. We should. The statistics are pointing to it. Essentially, they've conceded 8 goals in the last 10 minutes in the second half, or the last 10 minutes of games. So that's a plus point. Where a second half team, goals typically come within the last minute. So I'm expecting a flurry. I'm expecting a couple of goals. I'm expecting to hammer them. That being said, people, we got some more stats to crack on with as well. But that being said, when I personally think of Arsenal versus Burnley, it's a game I think is normally they're frustrating to break down. Obviously the score, like we beat them 5-0 not too long ago, but typically I can only remember real like 1-0s and 2-1 victory sort of things, that they're tough to break down. They frustrate us, and it really comes down to the finer margins. It looks like remember Turf Moor a couple of years ago when Koscielny or Oxlade-Chamberlain headed it into the back of the net, or when we got a penalty the other couple games ago. They're frustrating side, man. They seem to always be up for playing against us. But it's a game I expect to win, man. It's just I know they're not in the best of form, and question marks should be asked over Sean Dyche, because he was getting a lot of praise, was spoken about as getting the England job and stuff like that 12 months ago. So I haven't seen no negative question marks. I think they should stick with him. He's done a lot for them. But you think about a side like that, I think if you was to offer me my thoughts on Burnley, or ask me for them, I'd say they're a side who's committed to playing for Sean Dyche. They're tough to break down. They'll work hard. They'll frustrate. They'll foul you. They'll take advantage of set pieces. They've got Wood and other players that can take advantage in that department. So there are things to be wary of, man. We can't just expect to win because they've been in poor form. They've average goals conceded stands at 1.94, I believe, which I saw online. They're scoring once every 102 minutes. They're conceding every 46 minutes. So if they're taking longer to score than they are to concede, something is wrong, isn't it, people? Their strikers are not in the best of form, clearly, or they're not finding a way of reaching their optimum in an offensive sense. And obviously with the formation change you've seen in a couple of games that they've done, they're trying to find something different, because they clearly, the manager and the coaching staff and everyone clearly can't pinpoint. It is what it is, man. They've had about 2 good seasons, in my opinion, in the Prem, and probably they were due a bad one, sort of thing. They were due sort of a cloudy one, like you're seeing now with question marks asked over them. I mean, this year already they have 11 losses. They only managed 12 in the whole of last season. So this shows you it's going to be a tough season. And this shows you it could be, obviously, if I'm saying they've had 2 good seasons and this is their third, typically in a football cycle you normally see this. Maybe Sean Dyche has possibly taken them as far as they've gone. I'm not too sure. You'd have to ask a Burnley fan. They've only scored 15 this season as well. And again, to reiterate the point, like I have written down here, we can't. Palace had an issue scoring. We played them at their place. They managed to score and put that sort of right. Southampton, obviously, we're not the best when it comes to travelling to St Mary's, but we gave them enough confidence to come out there and walk away with a victory. We're a top 6 side. I know Arsenal are typically a soft touch, and you always fancy us when you're in this sort of form. But these are the things we need to pile on the pressure in regards, or not allow them to, because you can guarantee Burnley are sitting there and probably drawing inspiration from Southampton, how they put something right, and they could do it against us. They know we're poor defensively. If they're going to take advantage, it has to be via set pieces. They've conceded 33 goals already this season and conceded 34 the whole of last season. So again, the stats are pointing to it's going to be a tough season. They can't score as well. In the last 4 games they've played in the Premier League, they've only scored 2. They won once in December, I believe, or they got a point. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but they've suffered 3 out of 4 defeats in December. They got 1 win in November, 1 point the whole of October. September's the last time they won 2 game weeks, so they're not in the best of forms. You can tell by what I'm saying to you people. I've already said they're gonna be frustrated. Obviously, we had the 5-0 in May, but again, I kind of think stats back up what I was saying about being tough to break down, because in the last couple of Premier League games, if we just look at the last 3, we've won 1-0, 2 1-0s, and a 2-1. Also, if we go back to 2015, there was a 1-0, and I believe we beat them 2-1 either in 2015 or 2016 in the FA Cup. So when it's us beat them, it's not normally a flurry of goals. Obviously, I've just sound like a hypocrite because we shipped 5 past them. last year. City obviously put 5 or 6 past them as well this season. I'm sure Chelsea drummed them by a decent scoreline. United won 2-0, which is not a bad result. The Spurs have had a lot of games and they were pretty tired and they had to break down a tough Burnley side similar to us, so it can be done. In regards to the lineup as well, people, that's probably the one thing that concerns me. We're seeing a lot of question marks over fitness. I know Mustafi's had a hamstring, Bellerin's been injured, but both have been pictured in training, so I'm not too sure what to read into that. But in regards to the lineup, if everybody's fit and available, I'm going with Leno in goal, people. Hector Bellerin, Mustafi, Socrates, and Monreal in defence would be my back 4 including the keeper. Xhaka and Torreira pick themselves in midfield for me. I'd actually go with Aaron Ramsey in midfield as well. And I'd actually go with Aubameyang, Lacazette and Mesut Ozil. I don't think Mesut Ozil is going to be involved in any capacity based on the comments she was hearing before the game against Spurs. But for me, we need some creativity. But I suppose Mkhitaryan will do. That would be my team. Maitland-Niles would probably have to play right back, provided that Bellerin is not fit to play, and Mustafi, I'm a bit concerned in regards to the hamstring. I'd like to be able to play a decent defence. I mean, if push comes to shove, you might have to consider Monreal out there, Maitland-Niles left back, and Bellerin right back, or potentially bring in Koscielny. And on the last couple of game weeks, I've seen from in his cameo off the bench against Spurs, and obviously against Southampton? Spurs and someone else. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong about Southampton, but there's definitely been 2 games Koscielny hasn't showed well in. So that would be my lineup. If we did have to make some changes, I guess, then I'll go Leno in goal, Maitland-Niles at right back, Mustafi, Socrates, and Monreal. Monreal would come into centre half, or in fact Koscielny would be swapped for Mustafi if need be. Torreira and Xhaka pick themselves. I'll still go with Aaron Ramsey. And a bit of me actually wants to start Mkhitaryan, Aubameyang, and Lacazette, to be fair with you. I love Iwobi, but Iwobi will probably start, but I don't feel he should be in the lineup. I feel he started off the season well and his form's dipped a bit, and we need to kind of get that consistency back from him. It's nothing on the player. It's just if you're not in form, you're not in form. So in short, Burnley will be a frustrating side to break down, no doubt. But yeah, it's a game I expect to win. People, it's me again, deluded. Now obviously the video cut out, but yeah, let's crack on. Now the final point I was going to touch on in relation to Arsenal versus Burnley was just what I've seen in regards to their tactics. Now Burnley have gone to, I've seen them, I ain't watching Burnley religiously. I'm not going to sit here and say I am, because I don't really care for Burnley, but we've seen them recently change to a 3-4-3. Technically, it's based on what Sean Dyche called it. We've typically seen them play with 2 up front. We've seen them play 1 up front. So yeah, we know they're going to be a side to break down. Now going into, if I put myself in the mind of Sean Dyche, looking at Arsenal and turn off my DG cap, I look at it 2 ways. I think first of all, you've got to respect Arsenal, and you've got to respect the fact that clearly, again, I'm Sean Dyche at this moment in time. No disrespect to my players, but our players' strengths are not technically based, and Arsenal players trump us in that some of them Arsenal players could do more with their little toe than 2-3 sets of players can do with both of their legs essentially. So we know we can't outplay them. We can't put together little pretty rondos of play. So with that being said, we've got to set up defensively, and that also being said, that can be to our advantage. We might not be technically as good as Arsenal. They might have a bit more grit about them, and I'm not saying to foul them, but if we make it difficult for them, remain rigid in terms of our team shape, get men behind the ball, frustrate them, force them to go side to side, not have any options, that will play into our hands. And as the fans get nervy and stuff, players will start panicking, mistakes start happening. Added to that, set pieces, Arsenal can be got at. You also know, and again, with the Sean Dyche cap on, if you're looking at all of the top 6 sides and you was in the poor form which I've spoken about, you probably fancy playing Arsenal to get out of it. Or if you was to look at the top 6, yeah, United have been poor and said, alright, cool. If I haven't scored in 38 games, who do you, even though there's no 39 games, but if I haven't scored in 38 games, and I've got my 39th game is against a side in the top 6, who do you think I'll bag against? It'd be us. So with that being said, there's plenty of encouragement. Yes, we're nervy defensively and things like that, but and the first 10 minutes would be key. If they make us unconfident even more, our defenders might make mistakes, but Arsenal are here to be got at. So it's a difficult one. So obviously I've said 4-3-3. It doesn't look like that, and if I was Sean Dyche, realistically it's suicide to come to play against Arsenal or any top 6 side with the form they're in and the goals they're shipping and their lack of efficiency both defensively and offensively. It would be suicide. So just to show you what 3-4-3 obviously looks like, that is it. But what you more typically see with Burnley, in my opinion, is something more like this. And if I'm Burnley, this is what you're going to do. Now, Arsenal are going to probably play with a pivot. Sorry, oh, right, what's that? That was mad. Apologies, people. That was kind of mad. But, yeah, we probably play with a pivot. Now, obviously, that's our keep. But sorry, but people, this has to be a Burnley player. I've run out of red things in it, so keep this in mind. This one's not an Arsenal player, but these two are. Now, Arsenal are typically playing with a pivot. Now we know technically it's actually free in midfield, but if it's Ramsey, it's going to be a flat free. If it's Ozil or Mkhitaryan or someone else in that position, it's going to be more so up here. If it's Ramsey also, he's obviously going to fly forward and things again, vacating. So yeah, if we remove him for a sec and we look at our midfielders, if our midfielders were to receive the ball off centre halves, where are they going to go? Where are they? Who realistically would they pass the ball to? So if I'm Burnley, I'm staying rigid, because you've got obviously Arsenal's fullbacks would be providing the width here and here, but who would the men in midfield? If you think about it, if you're Torreira, Guendouzi or Xhaka, more or less, Xhaka receives it off him, goes forward. Where's his options? They've clouded our midfield. If I'm them, I'm clouding. I'm flooding the midfield. Frustrate us. Make us have no options. So we go side to side, side to side. Make us be frustrated to the point where, I mean, I want Lacazette and Aubameyang to start, but if we look at the recent games, it will be Aubameyang by himself. He's not the best with his back to goal. He will be frustrated. Now, it doesn't matter what form you're in. If 1 into 3 don't go, if you've got 3 man, obviously if the ball goes into spaces and you do what Arsenal are doing against Southampton and Spurs and you leave gaps for the strikers, Kane, Dele, Ings to exploit, then there'll be issues. But typically, you'll frustrate. Because like you saw with Spurs, with Davis at centre-half, Toby and Rose more often than not tucking in. When the fullback in Trippier was gone, they would tuck in, shuffle across. Again, 3 into 2 don't go. If Toby has to move and my man moves, then man gets him. And then they tuck in, shuffle across. If he goes out there, shuffle across sort of thing. If Aubameyang decides to come short, a centre-half can go with him, to which there'll still be 2. And then obviously there's midfield. So that is how I would go against Arsenal if I personally was them, first and foremost. Or if how they are going to go against us. Remain rigid. Obviously we've seen them play essentially with 2 midfielders, essentially in a conventional back 4. We've seen that. But that's what I believe they're more often than not we're likely to see, people. Because realistically, let me check I've got enough players on the pitch. 3. Man, I've confused myself. Cool, we've got enough on the pitch. 3-4-3. But yeah, like I said, that is what I would be. Sorry, people, I'm bending it up. That is what I would be doing if I was them. 11 men behind the ball, essentially. That is what I would be doing. 3. So it's almost a 3-5-1-1 essentially. Essentially, to be honest, quite frankly, honest with you people. Because think about, that's what you're gonna see. You're gonna get him. There's already 5 in midfield, but they should flood it even more. Get him. He's gonna be behind the ball as well. Obviously, if all their players are behind the ball, that's difficult for us to break down. Arsenal, we go side to side on the best of days anyways. We're not playing direct. If you was playing direct, then there'd be issues where you could say it's a thing where if we're from Leno straight from a goal kick and we're trying to hit Aubameyang, then that's different, because people are going to get pulled out of position eventually, if we're doing that consistently, because it doesn't matter how good you shuffle, there will be an occasion where Arsenal's left back in Monreal, because they provide the width and the attacking threat, and our winger will be able to take advantage, to which these 2 centre-halves will have an option, a decision to make. Do they go and one covers? Again, there's still space. So this is things to think about, people, anyways, for me anyways. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about, obviously, before the thing cut out. So yeah, there's really not much more for me to expand on, and thank you for staying with me and rocking and them things. So on that note, people, Arsenal versus Burnley, the preview is over. Thank you very much for watching. Yeah, I'm out.